daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Newcastle. My name is Iain Mackay. I'm your host tonight. I'm joined by the font of all knowledge, football related, because he's printed some lists off, Mr. Michael Grahamslaw. Michael, have you got exhausted trying to follow what's going on this deadline day?
I have, mate. It's one of those. I'm not used to Newcastle United being busy on deadline day. You'd think we'd sold a mediocre Swedish striker or something. I say mediocre. He is probably one of the best in the world. I am just having a laugh, but yeah, it's been a busy day. Some news that we were expecting, some news that we definitely weren't expecting, and then didn't come to fruition, which we'll talk about a bit later. But yeah, it's been a bit of an exhausting day. I'm kind of glad it was over at 7:00.
Well, officially over at 7:00. Of course, they've all got the additional 2 hours if they've submitted a deal sheet in before 7:00 to get through till 9 to get their paperwork in. So there might be one or two surprises waiting for us by the time we've finished recording and go back to check what we missed while we're talking. I know you're not going to miss anything. You've got all your video printers going as we speak. But yes, so it's deadline day. And part one, we can't really start this deadline day without focusing first on news I woke up to this morning because I went to bed quite early last night. Alexander Isak sold to Liverpool for £125 million, a new British transfer record. But so many questions arising from that, Michael. Have we given him away too cheap? Have we started looking really ridiculous because we said we wouldn't sell for less than 150 and with two strikers in? Did they cave? What are your thoughts on Isak's sale?
Yeah, I think it's one of those where I woke up to it as you did as well, and I'll be honest, when I saw it, I was quite furious because we didn't have Johan Wissa in the door. That looked like it wasn't going to happen, to be honest. The quote at the start of the day was 65 million for him, and I'm thinking there's no way on earth we're paying that. And then you see we're buying him for, well, Liverpool are buying Isak for 125. What happened to 150 or bust? We've just all of a sudden got down to deadline day and gone, actually, yeah, you know what? You can have him for a cut price deal because we can't really be bothered to deal with them anymore. And it's a real shame that it's 125 and not a bit more. But it's also one of those where it probably did need to happen. And I think this transfer window has probably done us a lot of harm, despite on paper not being, that bad, because Seshko, Ekitike, obviously I wasn't privy to many of the negotiations before those two, but those two negotiations played out in public, and it was, right, we want this amount, right, we'll offer it. And then the amount goes up and up and up. It was like Guehi last year. And what I think this has kind of shown, that if you're patient in negotiations with Newcastle, Newcastle will fold. And that's something that, for me, I'm really not comfortable with. Seshko, we're going to pay more than Man United. Why are we paying more than the asking price? It's something that even then, it didn't really make that much sense. I guess we were just hoping, they've accepted Man United's bid. If we offer more, maybe they reject Man United's bid, something like that. And it kind of just feels like, I'm not going to say amateurish because I don't think it is that, but I think they've realised that we need to do something a little bit extra to get players to Newcastle. And because of the severity of the Alexander Isak situation, we've been desperate and we've played our cards. We've basically shown both of our cards in blackjack before the dealer even knows he's up card. So it's one of those where we've been in a bit of trouble. I haven't really liked the window at all because of that, but it's over. We're in a decent place now, but I think there will be teams if we go for anyone in January, there will be teams that think we can have Newcastle's pants down here, and based off this window, they might be right.
Well, I think I hear what you're saying. Of course, I do. I was surprised that it was 125. I heard 130 at the same time. I don't know if there's some add-ons that will take it to that. But let's go for 125. That seems to be what everybody is settling on. It did look a little bit like we had caved. I was thinking, oh well, that's good because they must be sure that they're getting a second striker in. So I was taking a bit of a positive spin on that.
Makes
Although
sense.
you're
Yeah.
absolutely right, when you then looked at the detail, it didn't look like Strand Larsen or Wissa was going to be economically available, shall we call it.
Yeah.
We will get onto Johan Wissa in a minute or two. I think, and we're going to have a much bigger podcast discussion tomorrow about the overall transfer window,
Yeah.
which when we do the pluses and minuses, I think we're going to conclude that we actually had quite a good window. But it was a window that we went through without a sporting director and without a chief executive. So I think maybe the lack of that sort of professional nous at the top, is perhaps why our cards have been a little bit publicly played, or we've showed our hand too soon. I think we were shopping in the wrong market, Michael, to start with. It's no good us going
Yeah.
after strikers that we know that Chelsea or Liverpool or Man United are going to want if we don't have to. And, they kept very quiet about Volta Marder, and it was Bayern Munich being tight that meant that they missed out.
Yeah.
But again, it's the stealth approach that works for us. But Isak's gone. I think it's good that draws a line. We don't have to try and reintegrate him or have that bloody turning up for training at 4 o'clock on his own for the next 4 months, which would have just been an absolute
It
soul
would have been a
destroying
pain.
nightmare to watch. And it
Yeah.
can't be good for the morale of the team. I
Yeah.
think the morale of the
I'd
team
agree.
will be lifted when they see German wonder kid and the Premier League striker who scored more non-penalty goals last season than anybody else. That will lift the team. Johan Wissa, similar situation to Isak, really, particularly when he issued his statement last night,
Yeah.
which we discussed was a little bit more detail about having written assurances that they were going to let him go, but still not the right way of leaving. We all wish that we could have signed somebody like Eze, who tonked in a goal, unfortunately disallowed 10 minutes before he went off for his medical at Arsenal. Um,
Yeah.
But, it's not a perfect world. What do you think about the Wissa deal at 55 mil? I think we have overpaid a little bit, but then circumstances dictate, don't they?
Yeah, 100% correct. I think when you sit there and it's the desperation stage which Newcastle have been in, it makes people do strange things. Personally, I feel like it would have been too much of a risk to wait until January to make this deal happen, even if you were saving 25 million, because we've already lost. I don't want to say 7 points because there's no guarantee we win every game, but we've dropped 7 points, five of which I think we would have had if we had a top level striker. Because I think we do beat Aston Villa. I think we do beat Leeds, and I think the way Liverpool played, there was a good chance we'd get a draw. I wouldn't have said beat them. I think as soon as you take the lead against Liverpool, they're a different beast. We have a striker up front. It's if, buts, maybes. I think that's pretty much the side of things, So we've already lost, in my opinion, 5 points in 3 games from that. And I think you look at that 5 points, that's the difference in some seasons between Champions League and not qualifying for, well, the Europa League. You'd be in the conference, maybe not even in Europe at all, particularly if that goes on for, 4 months. So I think Wissard will end up paying for himself, or at least the extra. I do think it's a great signing. I am completely with you with the way you went again about things. It's almost bad for football that we've made this signing, and I really don't agree with the way he conducted himself. What I would love is for him to come in and for Eddie Howe to sit him down and go, that you can't do that here, by the way. You pull anything like that with us, you're out the door straight away, and you won't be going to a better club. You'll be going to a club that's maybe a feeder club. Tell you what, we'll send you to somewhere in the Championship, and you can let them see your talents. Because as far as I'm concerned, players shouldn't be able to do that. Isak did it to us. Visser has done it to Brentford. And, maybe we're in a better position overall. We've definitely not got the best striker in the world right now. but Brentford are a team that's crippled because of that scenario, and it's disgusting to see, even though we're on the benefit of it this time. But you don't like to see it, do you?
Well, Michael, just before we go to our first break, let me reassure you, by the way, if you're worried about us having dropped 7 points, because we took 1 point from the away match at Villa and the home match with
Oh
Liverpool
yes.
last year. And whilst we beat all of the promoted teams, we got a draw at Leeds. So we're only 2 points behind where we were last year. So I think there's still plenty of time for us to make that up and be challenging for a Champions League spot this year.
100%.
So don't worry. Words well spoken about Wissa. Of course, we wish him all the best now he's with us. We want him to score. We want him to beat last year's 19 non-penalty goal total, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does leave a little bit of a bad taste. I guess once he's got the black and white shirt on and he's scored twice, that will be the mouthwash. That means we haven't got that bad taste in our mouth anymore. But it'll keep coming back when we see Isak scoring for Liverpool, no doubt. Anyway, that's those two. Both deals done quite early in the transfer window. But there was a lot of other shenanigans going on, and we'll get onto that in part two. Meanwhile,
your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN 2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
And let's talk more soccer, Michael. What was going on this afternoon? We thought our deals had been done. We got our striker in. Still plenty of the transfer window open. Kind of half hoping that there might have been a sneaky little loan deal for a midfield player, maybe. There were one or two rumours to that end, but nothing materialised. Suddenly, on the wire, misfiring centre forward. I don't know if he's played enough to even call him that, because he really just he started his first game against Leeds, didn't he?
Yeah.
But William Osula, who is a great dancer and a fabulous influence within the dressing room, but hasn't done very much on the pitch for us. He was going for 30 million to Frankfurt.
Yeah.
Where
Insane.
did that come from? Where did that come from? I mean, I've got to add that just as we were going to record, the news came through that deal has fallen through. So apparently because we need to retain him as cover for Wissa and Volta Marder. But I have a sneaking suspicion that means that there was going to be a sneaky loan deal for a striker, and that we could send Osula away, sell him for 30 million, because that is what, 20 million
insanity
profit.
Yeah.
Or even send him out on loan because he was going to be surplus to requirements, and then suddenly he wasn't. So I wonder if it will emerge. What do you think? Do you think we had another striker coming in on loan and it's fallen through?
I think maybe the plan was I don't think we had another sign lined up just from the lack of talk from anywhere about another striker. I feel like those kind of things, usually you see one or two rumours, and even if it's untrustworthy sources, you still get excited on deadline day. But what I did see a few hours ago, and it's why I said to you beforehand, I need to check the Osula deal before we go on, was because I'd seen that the 30 million... at around, I think it was 2:00, it started talking about Osula going for 30 million. And then by 5-6 o'clock, I'd seen that Eintracht Frankfurt were going to loan him for the season with the option to buy for 30 million at the end. And I was thinking, you know what, that makes a lot more sense, because they need a backup striker themselves. They signed Burkhardt from Mainz. Great striker, but they need a backup. 30 million. If Osula plays how he does for Denmark, well, the under-21s of Denmark, it's a decent deal. If he plays like he does for us, well, they just wouldn't activate it. But then I was seeing more and more that just wasn't the case at all in the end. And what I think happened was I think we were willing to let Osula go on a loan where we could recall him at any time. So if Volta Marder gets injured or just doesn't fit the bill, we can say, right, actually, we want him back and we want him back now. And they would have to go through with it. A bit like Chelsea have done with Mike Guehi and Sunderland. I think it was something like that, but in the end, apparently we just need him too much, which I'll be honest, at, was it 8:10 and still not seeing the Wissa deal complete, it's making me a little bit shaky.
We have submitted the deal sheet.
The deal sheet,
for Wissa.
yeah.
So you were reassuring me that it was definitely going to go through just a little while ago, Michael. So maybe I've got false confidence that it's going to happen. But you don't put a deal sheet through for it to fall, do you? He's done his medical. There's
Unless
nothing
you're
going to trip us
Liverpool.
up on that. Well, we will come on to one or two. We will come on to one or two other clubs' business today in part 3. So, what about this additional fullback maybe that we could have had on loan that I know you had your eye on, or an additional midfield player? I know Fratesi was talked about for several weeks. Do you think we've got enough strength?
I think it's
to
one of
take
those
on
where,
the Champions League.
Yeah, I definitely wanted either another fullback in or a creative midfielder, because I think when you watch the Leeds game, it's abundantly clear that we were missing that sort of James Maddison style player who just can get in between the lines, play that little through ball. And Bruno did it a couple of times in that first half, and it was fantastic. Didn't lead to anything, unfortunately, because we had a striker who's a right winger, really, in my mind. But I think it was one of those where a creative midfielder has been on the cards for years and it hasn't happened. So I can't see why it would have been done on a deadline day. I think it would have been something we would have tried to do earlier. And then after Matt Target went on loan to Middlesbrough, I was almost certain that we'd bring in a young fullback, a left back in particular. I know we've got Dan Burn, Kieran Trippier, Tino Livramento that can all cover. But Lewis Hall is our only real left back. And Alex Murphy, I guess, is maybe an option there as well. Leo Sahar's on the right side, so maybe if we needed to, he could come in on the right. Same with Harrison Ashby. But they're not really at the level you'd want. So I was kind of hoping that someone somewhere, maybe in sort of the German league or something like that, would have a left back we could loan for a season, something like that. Because if Lewis Hall gets injured, we're not in trouble, but then we don't have a left back. And I know Tino's better on the left than he is on the right, but there is one day where that will change.
Yeah. To be fair, though, what you've just said has encouraged me. If Howe is thinking that Alex Murphy on the left and Leo Sahar can step in for the handful of games they may need to step in for, then I'm pleased he thinks they're good enough to do that, and he doesn't have to plug any gaps. We might find out that that's different when it comes to January, and that we've got fullbacks on our shopping list. Because to be fair, Trippier needs replacing at the end of this season at the very latest. Anyway,
100%.
I mean, he's an amazing athlete that keeps going, but he is getting on to the veteran stage now, and you've got to have somebody understudying and replacing him. I know that's meant to be Tino, but he could be a left back now. You've got to have somebody to come through and be well versed on what's going on before Trippier switches across into coaching. Anything else that we could have got? I mean, I just thought Kobe Mainu was available for a great price, and he's a superb player, and he's that number 10, even though Man U don't use him as it. I think he would have been a super buy.
I think it's one of those, though, where Man United, I don't think will ever. Well, I say ever, at least for the next 5 or so years. I don't think they'll try. I don't think they'll accept selling to Newcastle United because a player like Kobe Mainoo has the potential to do so much. And I think in Mainoo's mind, he does want to stay at Man United, but Amarim doesn't want to play him. So I think when he's put that loan request in, he's gone, right, this idiot isn't going to be here in a year. Send me out on loan for a year, and then when he's gone, I'll come back and I'll be just as good for you as I was before.
Be hoping Ten Hag comes back because Ten Hag loved Mainoo, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and Ten Hag all sacked within the same 3 days. Man United are getting the band back together.
The dream team, yes, excellent. Look, let's pause there, and we'll have a little bit of a look around one or two of the deals that have gone through for other clubs or not in part 3. If you could give us the, I'll tell you what, Michael, I'll give you this, and then you can come in afterwards and do the Zencastr advert. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we've spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencastr came out the clear winner with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It is super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Michael. Now, I want to dive straight in to have a little bit of a smirk at the smug Bindippers who are going to banter us for the rest of our lives about getting Alexander Isak on the cheap. But their dream transfer window also included picking up future England captain Mark Guehi from Crystal Palace at a knockdown 35 million. Let's be honest, that would probably buy half of him when we were trying to get him last summer.
Yeah, not even that.
But apparently, that deal has not gone through. Now, you've got a little bit more information on that because that just happened as we were coming to air. What's the story?
Yeah, so Liverpool had basically made contact with Palace a little while ago. The deal was basically all going through. Very similar to the Alexander Isak deal. But Crystal Palace wanted to keep Mark Guehi. Mark Guehi reacted to the deal in a perfect way. Kept on playing, scored a beautiful goal against Aston Villa. Professionalism. Love to see it from the Crystal Palace lads. And it looked like both of them were going to get their move. But when Crystal Palace have tried to sign Igor from Brighton, be honest, there's not a lot of players who've gone from Brighton to Crystal Palace. And for good reason. They've got a little rivalry going on there for those that don't follow football in the south. But it's actually come out that Igor has decided to go to West Ham United instead and play under Graham Potter. Maybe he just watched the game at the weekend and not the abysmal performance against Sunderland or Chelsea. But basically, Crystal Palace couldn't get a replacement in. And although Liverpool put the deal sheet in at 7 o'clock, which tells you Liverpool still thought the deal was going to go ahead, Crystal Palace at 8 o'clock said, yeah, it's not happening anymore, and pulled the plug. So Liverpool stuck with 3 centre-backs, Van Dijk, Canate, and Gomez. And considering Gomez is, well, more crocked than Jacob Ramsey and Joe Willock, they're pretty much down to 2 centre-backs for the next 4 months, which could be very interesting.
I'd said to you, it's not just an Achilles heel, that Liverpool defence. It's an Achilles leg, really. I know they're absolutely superb array of talent in midfield and going forward, and they've just added the best striker in the world to that. But they're going to have to work quite hard if they need to score 4 or 5 every game because they're letting 3 or 4 in. I mean, they let 2 in against Newcastle with 10 men, and we haven't scored against anybody else this season. So, I'm hoping that's what's going to trip them up because we don't want some teams spending over 400 million in one transfer window when they're champions already, steamrolling their way through to the title. Want some competition in there. Now, tell me what's happened at Villa. They were after not Harvey Barnes. what's he
Harvey
called? The
Elliott.
Liverpool Harvey Elliott. And
Yeah.
they were sniffing after Jadon Sancho as well. Has that gone through?
Yeah, so as it stands, they've put deal sheets in for both players. It's interesting that the Elliott one hasn't been confirmed yet, because I was seeing around 6-7 o'clock that everything was pretty much done deal there. With Sancho, it's a bit more of an interesting one, because obviously Villa's biggest issue PSR wise has been wages in comparison to revenue. Now, the two loan deals they did last year, Marco Asensio and Marcus Rashford, they were the deals that were supposed to get them into the Champions League and get that extra commercial income. So the fact that Jadon Sancho is on pretty much the same amount as Marcus Rashford, and they're still making that deal, is it's quite a concerning one, I think, if you're an Aston Villa fan. But at the same time, they haven't scored a goal this year. They've been they've been absolutely abysmal. So it looks like both deals are going to go through. I do really like the Harvey Elliott sale. I don't know about you, but I actually would have quite liked him in the deal for Isak if we could have got
Me too.
110 plus Harvey Elliott.
We've mentioned that deal since we started talking about it at the beginning of August. That was an obvious thing to include, to get us up to, so we got 150 million to us, but then Liverpool didn't have to go far over 100 really. But yeah, good luck for them. They'll be good at Aston Villa actually, and they do need something. Let's face it, they're one of the 3 teams that have started the Premier League worse than we have. And they did look abject playing against us, but they were really dreadful against Crystal Palace. Clueless.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
And they have aspirations for Champions League, so got to change.
And then another deal which we actually spoke about this morning. Joe asked us, what do we think would be chanting at the end of the day? Wissa or Larson? And I actually said, I've got a really bad feeling it's going to be Jackson. And we're like, oh, no, it won't happen. I said, look, Chelsea's only issue is the fact there's not a permanent deal in there. And I've got no information to back this up except from what's already been in the press. But Jackson was arguably a really good, a really solid option for Newcastle. It's not one fans would have wanted us to make, but it was a £15 million loan, million euros, should I say, loan fee, which Fabrizio Romano counted 4 million is heavy. So I can only imagine what that is. And then another 55 million on top. So Nicolas Jackson would have ended up costing us 70 million euros, which, isn't that much more than Wissa. But that was a deal that looked like it could have been on the cards at some point today if Bayern didn't come in for a second bid. But I think we're all very happy that hasn't happened.
And have Bayern come in for a second bid?
He is officially a Bayern now, yes. So Bayern Munich will be paying a total of 70 million for Nicolas Jackson.
Blimey. Because it looked yesterday when that was, because he was in Munich and then got told to come back, wasn't he, when Delat picked up the injury. I thought they were going to keep him, but they have actually been able to work something out. Probably a clever ruse to winkle a little bit more money out of Bayern Munich.
Potentially, yeah.
So, what's the one out of the blue that surprised you the most today?
To be honest, it hasn't. The one that surprised me the most was Kolo Muani's loan to Tottenham, because I actually thought he was one that could have ended up with us. Because the Juventus deal fell through. Luis Openda has now gone to Juventus, and then Kolo Muani, you're sitting there and going, right, we've already got Volta. If we just need a year until we can get Johan Wissa on a free, let's bring in Kolo Muani for a year on a loan. But I think Tottenham have offered a fee at the end of it. We wouldn't have. And to be honest, I do think Johan Wissa is the better player. So that's the one for me. You were saying the same. Would you have liked Kolo Muani at Newcastle?
I don't know loads about him, but I know he looked. I've seen the reels on YouTube when he was touted as an alternative to Sesko and Ekitike when we missed out on those two, and he looked fine. He looked good, but then so did Vlahovic. I really like the look of him. But I guess by that stage, we talked already earlier in the window about Volta Marder, and it just looked for so long as though Bayern Munich were going to have him when they finally agreed money.
Yeah, felt like it was
I'm
a done
delighted.
deal.
I am absolutely delighted that we've gone in there and put the cash down and I've got him because I think he might be the most exciting transfer of the transfer window. I could be biased, but I think
Mm-hmm.
Newcastle bringing him to the Premier League and seeing this, what does what does Kev call him? Um, oh, Berber Crouch, he calls him because he's got the touch of Berbatov and he's as tall as Peter Crouch. I think that might be. I think that might be one of the most exciting signings that we've had in this whole transfer window.
Yeah, he's a very unique player. Like, it's very rare you see players who are 6'4" to 6'6" who have such a good touch and are good dribblers. Because let's be honest, Peter Crouch, in regards to first touch, he was very good. But if you asked him to run at a man, it was never happening. Let's be honest. While what you see from Volta, it looks like he can beat 3 or 4 players and still progress with the ball. So I'm really excited by that. But I am so happy we got Johan Wissa in. And I'll be honest, when the 55 million first came through, 50 plus 5, I was a little concerned we'd overpaid. And then there's a wonderful compilation on YouTube. Welcome to Newcastle, Johan Wissa. I watched that and then I went, you know what? I'm happy with this. Somehow you've made me feel fine about it. And I looked at his goals last season. A lot of them are tap-ins. But what I will say about that is those tap-ins, striker's instinct, you can see it from a mile off. When the ball's in the air, he knows where the knock-on's going to be instead of Osula, who I do like, but will just run towards the ball. And that's what we've been missing. And I think Johan Wissa is going to be one of the signings of the transfer window for me, 100%.
Well, that's excellent, Michael. What a place to stop. Both you and I combined have got Wissa and Volta Marder as the 2 most exciting transfers of this window. Who can you remember that Swedish fella that used to play up front for us? I can't remember his name now.
No,
Let's get
Johnny.
yeah.
No, he was Danish. I was going to say Johnny L. Thomason, but no.
No, I can't remember now. Can't remember.
Jeff Kikuchi?
Anyway,
no, he was Finnish. We'll think of him someday.
Yeah. So that is the transfer deadline day, which isn't quite finished. It's 8:30 now, so there's still another half an hour for some major surprise to go through on a deal sheet. But hopefully, we've encapsulated what happened for Newcastle, and had a chance to have a little bit of a laugh at Liverpool as well. So that can't be too bad. Thank you very much indeed for going through this with me, Michael. We will be back again tomorrow with a more in-depth look at the transfer window from Newcastle's point of view, and we shall see you all then.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.